We hear the word passion a lot. I sort of call us beyond the passion because it's the way we live.
House runners for 110, hit 170, 170 man, 40 Kevin, 140. Sold.
You know, there's a lot of things. Well, you guys are car guys, you know nothing about tractors, which offended me, but it was true. You know, looking back, I guess I didn't know what I didn't know.
Folks, look at the tractor, the work's done.
Transforming from its humble start, the 2021 Spring Classic earmarks record-breaking history for the Gone Farmin crew, led by auctioneer Matt Moravec.
It makes the hair stand on your arm knowing that, okay, we've got something big here going today. These cameras better be sharp and these people better be ready because we are gonna put on one hell of a show.
That day was the most electric day we've ever had.
What I do know is it was a hell of a record that I don't think they even set out to it just happened.
Folks, reserves hopping away, 165 bid.
And it was timed just about perfect. At the half-hour mark, I came in at 22, sold the 806, and then that was the half hour of power.
Hello everyone, I'm Amanda Trudell, and I'm here to take you beyond the block, bringing you a behind-the-scenes look at the Mecum Gone Farmin experience. As you're aware, 2020 was a little challenging when it came to holding our events, and that meant we couldn't have our whole Mecum family there. Fast forward to the 2021 Spring Classic in Davenport, Iowa, our crowds were back again and people were excited. Little did we know that between the featured tractors and the collections we had, Gone Farmin was on the verge of a huge milestone. What was on the horizon? Well, to keep energy high and keep them fresh, our auctioneers take 30-minute turns on the block. When the auctioneer in the cowboy hat, Matt Moravec, took the stand, he set a Mecum Gone Farmin record, selling over $1 million worth of tractors in a half hour.
It really wasn't planned. The way it started was I was going to lead off and we had a gentleman come up, a regular customer that normally just brings one really good tractor, and he goes, Matt, I'd really like you to sell it. You're an international guy, and it was a 806 diesel, and he goes, it's number 22, would you sell the tractor? And I go, absolutely, that's fine. And it was timed just about perfect. At the half-hour mark, I came in at 22, sold the 806, and then that was the half hour of power.
Folks, hands high, we're gonna roll. Not kind of in a boat now. It won. Kind of anybody, kind of a 12,000. You want back concern? 12,000 a man. And not kind of anybody, kind of in a boat here. Not kind of anybody, kind of a 12,000. Sold her 20,000. Sold $20,000. Kevin, Two Guns Edwards.
He's working for a seller, but he's having a good time while doing it, and it's fun to watch him. Matt is our oldest, so I always considered Matt kind of an old soul. When we raised him, we took him with us wherever we went. And Matt was always comfortable talking with older people. When he was a year old, he could say anything, and be in the
He couldn't walk, but he could talk.
He couldn't walk, but he could talk, and he always talked.
Matt earned his right to wear that cowboy hat as a young kid growing up on the family farm. Always comfortable behind a tractor, an avid outdoorsman, and of course, working for Moravec Auctions.
Matt is from an auction family. His dad's an auctioneer and his mom ran the office. So, he's the story of the kid that slept on the floor while his dad was calling bids.
He was ready from the get-go. I think one of the first auctions I remember taking him to, he had cowboy boots on and a cowboy hat, but he also had a diaper, if I remember right. We never got a babysitter. All three boys went to the auctions with us. Started from there. I didn't know of Matt ever wanting to do anything else.
My first auction was actually held at the kitchen table. As you've seen, I have a Breyer horse collection, and I would line up those horses, and I had a little makeshift corral, and I would bring those horses in, and I had mock horse auctions to a huge crowd at the kitchen table, and I'd sell the same horse over and over and over again, like a lot of horse sales do today.
Haha, Matt, you're riding the line with this horse chick. Now tell them about your first real auctioneering debut.
My very first official time behind the microphone that I sold, and that was July the 7th, 1991.
Matt came up to you when it was my grandparents' auction, And was he?
He was 11.
He was 11, and unbeknownst to both of us, said he wanted to auction.
And we looked at each other and, you bet, Matt, you're ready to go.
And I don't even know, had you been practicing with him?
Yeah, we'd always practice, but I didn't want to put any pressure on the kids, any of them. We would just do numbers and do chance as we're driving down the road in the car. I was hoping in my back of my mind that the kids would pick it up, but I just out of the blue, it was his decision. But it was very exciting. It was I was very proud of him. Didn't have to help him at all. He was a very professional at 11 years old, getting the job done.
I auctioned that antler off that my great-grandfather had found and always had in the house. And my dad's dad, my grandpa Moravec, bought it as a keepsake for me in my career, and later gave it to me when he thought that, well, you're a better auctioneer now, you can go ahead and take it.
Moving up from selling and reselling Breyer horses at the kitchen table, Matt worked his way through many opportunities. At the age of 19, through some mutual contacts, Matt found Mecum.
I am the auctioneer that they hired a long time ago as a 19-year-old kid, kind of an unknown that came from a small town in David City, Nebraska. And I happened to know a couple of the auctioneers that were working for the car auction company at the time. So I got to ride along to an auction up in Minnesota and started working for Mecum Auctions then. That was been 21 years ago.
Matt has been with us since he was a lad. We consider Matt part of our family. We've watched him grow into, not only is he a great auctioneer, he's one of the best people you would ever meet.
Having Matt on our auction block makes me feel like I have somebody that has my back and is not going to let me down, and he brings confidence.
Going to the Gone Farmin Auctions for me was really like going back home, because I grew up a lot more on a tractor than I did in a muscle car.
I've watched him evolve. We're both the same age, and he came on at Gone Farmin, and he's kind of taken it on. And he's so passionate about the tractors and the tractor auctions. He has all the talent in the world, but he still works every day to master his craft.
When you see him at Gone Farmin selling tractors, he's better than he is selling the cars. And why he's better is because he knows the equipment, and it just brings another level to his talent.
I'm like, wow, that's really pretty good, what he does.
Right.
And he probably got some of it from you.
It's part of his being. And when you see him selling tractors, you see him glow, you see how happy he is. He's in heaven when he's auctioning tractors.
Yes or no, $210,000 last call night have. Give him a big round of applause. He bought a heck of a tractor. Sold $205,000. Sold $205,000.
Matt is certainly a cowboy at heart. In fact, his folks named him after Matt Dillon of Gunsmoke. There's a lot more to learn about Matt Moravec and his $1 million run on Beyond the Block. Stay tuned.
The show F24 is coming in a 1960 John Deere 8020, 101 built, a trailblazer in the muscle tractor market, first articulated four-wheel drive model manufactured by John Deere, F number 24.
The 8020 and I have danced before on a few other occasions, and we have broken some records, and so things got started. 8020 sells.
Ask him one more time. Give 187, 185, 187. But yes, no. Not going to be better. Kind of minimum 57 to win. 187, sir. Not going to be better. Kind of minimum 57 to win. 187,000. Thank you for what you did do. Sold 185,000. Sold $185,000. Lucas Lucky
breaks another record, and so I thought, okay, step number one.
The 8020 crossing the block at the 2021 Spring Classic was huge in setting the stage for what was to come in the next 30 minutes. But did anyone realize this was the start of a history-making moment for Gone Farmin?
to say, oh, these next 5, 6 tractors, we ought to have $1 million run here. I don't think it was planned. And it happened because they had the right people in the right place, the right auctioneers, the right personnel.
And a live auction.
And a live auction.
We're about noise, we're about energy. It's just part of who we are.
I like the game time. You don't know what's going to happen.
Give a big round of applause. He bought a heck of a tractor, sold $205,000.
Gaveling in over $1 million in sales in just a half hour may have been unplanned, but that success didn't come from out of the blue. The foundation for that historic run was laid in 2010 when the first Gone Farmin auction was held at Mecum's headquarters in Walworth, Wisconsin.
The first Gone Farmin, we sold $550,000 in sales, which at the time I thought was pretty good. And maybe it was for what we were doing.
When Dan started Gone Farmin, I was probably very negative of it. When Dan was little, he had a little tractor that he rode with his Grandpa Stone. I figured, well, that must be where he caught this tractor bug.
I like the ingenuity that went behind them and the different ways of solving problems. Their stories are very deep too, because the old tractors, it was a family's livelihood.
It was his way of doing his own thing and still staying in the family business.
Being the country boy that he is, Matt invested in Mecum's success when he drove all the way from Nebraska to Walworth to auctioneer at the very first Gone Farmin.
He's someone that will always have your back. He's always had my back since we started Gone Farming, because it wasn't always easy, especially when we were trying to get over the hump. I tell him, what we got to do or what our expectations are, and he shrugs his shoulders and says, yeah, no problem. He goes, it should start out there, He knows things that you just can't teach.
Gone Farmin, since it started, has been a big learning curve for Dan.
There's a lot of things, well, you guys are car guys, you know nothing about tractors, which offended me, but it was true. Looking back, I guess I didn't know what I didn't know.
We had an open-sided tent up in Walworth. We had a lot of small-time, a lot of A's and B's come across, M's and H's, kind of your entry level into collector tractors, if you want to call it that.
Before Dan, anytime you went to a tractor auction, they were lined up at the farm along the fence. The thing he did to change his industry is he put chairs in there where people could go sit down in the chair and drive the tractors in front of them. He created entertainment for tractor auctions.
In the beginning, it was more of a tractor auction, and now it's an event.
The things of pride to me is we did not start this industry, but we changed it.
We embrace change. Every auction is completely different. And sometimes I don't want it to be that way, it just ends up that way. The whole team gets together after every auction and you say, what can we do better? Even if we have the best auction we thought we've had, to us it's like we did so many things that could be done better.
Determined for only the best with this family-run company, the team has become really close over the years.
The Mecum family, they are a family. Whether your last name is Mecum or not, you're treated the same.
We all know that we can rely on one another because we've been together for so long, and now it's this engine that's running and it's in motion and everything, and we've got all this momentum because of our good ties and binds within our Mecum family.
What I find comical is how families find unique ways of communicating with each other.
To keep things fresh and entertaining for us, sometimes we have a little bit of lingo on the block. We might be talking about plans later on or something, selling something at hand. Or, hey, did you see the guy wearing his cowboy hat backwards just walk in? I gotta be really warmed up to do it, but I'll roll it just right where I can say a full sentence and brrr, like that. They'll catch it. The crowd may or may not.
Better get out of town while you can.
While they know how to have a good time, Matt and the whole team are driven for excellence.
We're fortunate because of our crew of auctioneers are so good. If you put Matt in with a lot of crews, nobody could follow him.
Matt doesn't let off for them. You have to come to his level. You're either going to sink or swim.
In the auction world, people want to be excited. When they're excited, they bid. Matt does that. He creates excitement at an unbelievable level.
That crowd is the most intricate part of that environment, and if you can't connect with them this business may not be for you.
It's like just being able to wear the right hat at the right given time. Matt is able to adapt.
If I'm going to kind of go back down to my roots here and go sell a plate of cookies or kovlatches at the ice cream social at the church hall in front of a more elderly crowd, I might slow things down a little bit and go, got $5 here, now 10, you want to get 10? Bill, look at Martha, you two have been married for the last 55 years. Are you going to tell her no on this pie? 10, 50, thank you, down 20 here, now 5, 25 here, and you don't necessarily slow down, but you bring yourself to their entertainment level. I can't walk into that crowd and sell the same way I do at a wholesale auction, which is 10 grand. You want to get 1, 2, 3, here, $4 credit, but about credit, get 5, $6, 70, 108, 9, credit, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11, 5, pound of it, get down to get them, pound of it, $100, sold 11.4. You can't do that at the ice cream social.
That kind of intuition for working the crowd totally boosts the overall entertainment. What else sets Mecum apart?
I hate bringing up anything really bad in this segment, but the internet sales have affected us a lot. It may be more convenient for somebody to sit at home and take a few pictures and post it online and sell it, but you can't bring that electricity across that screen into the room where somebody's pointing and clicking.
225, 225,000. Last call, Kevin, y'all done? 225, 2 to bid, 225 here tonight. Half, ladies and gentlemen, we sold the tractor for 220,000. Sold.
I think when the hammer starts dropping, that's the most enjoyable part to me. And then you got Matt up there lighting it up.
A live crowd at a live auction is what makes this company successful. Come to the forefront of not just an auction business, but an auction entertainment business. That's why we're on television.
Over the years, our Gone Farmin fans have seen a lot of the Mecum family at our auctions and events. But people don't often get to see what life is like beyond the block. Up next, we'll take a sneak peek at Matt's home life in David City, Nebraska. Stick with us. When Matt Moravec is auctioneering, he's answering his calling to call. But what is Matt's life like when he's not holding a gavel?
He's got his mom's temper.
That is so not true. Can you believe?
Well, I was lucky enough to get a behind-the-scenes glimpse of his life with his wife, Audra Lynn, on their farm in David City, Nebraska.
Some guys have all the luck. If I want to go home and I just want to go home and go be Matt again, I can go down here and I can do that.
Matt is a cowboy at heart.
When he gets out of that car and back home from the auction, this is their life. You hear all the traffic. You hear the birds chirping and see the donkeys and the horses and everything else out here in the pasture, and maybe a goat or two or 200.
One of the interests I share with them is the goats, because my great-grandfather had goats.
I haven't got this past Dan's mother, Patty. I'm always this close to bringing a couple baby goats home.
So you never know, we might have a goat auction, I don't know.
Call this group the Rogues. Wander the yard all day and patrol weeds. This one's friendly, yeah, I know. You can get away from things out here and just learn how to be simple again.
Good job, big guy.
And we do work very hard around here because mainly it's just the two of us.
When he is home, it's, okay, you're doing your job and you're no longer the celebrity, you're doing what needs to be done around the farm.
You know, for a farm kid that had the opportunity to go out on the road and work some of these auctions with one of the world's foremost auction companies, and I feel blessed to be in the position that I'm in.
And Matt will tell you that 𝗳𝗲𝗏 is the key for him to be able to balance his career as an auctioneer and their business with the farm.
Every goat that they have here is named, and if you can't remember their name, ask 𝗳𝗲𝗏, because 𝗳𝗲𝗏 will know their name.
It's Dixie! Hi, Velvet.
Very, very knowledgeable in the animal world. She's a vet tech, and that's what we mainly raise is boar goats, and we have a few cattle out here as well, and we got our horses, and about anything with fur on it that can have a name, we're probably going to have on this yard.
Matt's always had a love for animals, always.
And so 𝗳𝗲𝗏 was a perfect person
That
for
perfect
him.
fit.
They are a fantastic team, but let me tell you, 𝗳𝗲𝗏 is a busy lady. It was hard to catch up with this tough cookie who is determined to keep everything in motion.
Always been a country girl and always been a tomboy. So, anything a boy could do, I could do better.
She is a strong, steadfast, hardy woman.
Matt has more patience than he realized he had.
Very set in her ways, and so am I. I guess that's what makes us two peas in a pod.
I guess it's one of those things they say that if you fight hard, you love hard, and so we definitely love.
Watching this power couple work together and the way they appreciate each other was really something to see.
Matt, for me, is my knight in shining armor.
You're fine, buddy.
He is so good at what he does in taking care of the auction side of stuff. He is so good at what he does in coming home and taking care of things home. And when he's here, trying to be here and trying to help when he can. He's appreciative and shows me his appreciation in ways that most couples wouldn't get.
Care to tell us, 𝗳𝗏𝗏?
Instead of flowers for Valentine's Day, I got 2 straws of 𝗕𝗏𝗁𝗃𝗍𝗄𝗏. For our 6-month anniversary, instead of getting me flowers, he got me a mini donkey.
Matt isn't the only celebrity on this farm. 𝗳𝗏𝗏 is also a familiar face at the Gone Farmin Auctions.
It all kind of started by accident. I brought her up to Walworth, and I think it was that very first auction. We were short of some clerical help. Dan says, well, what are we going to do? And I says, well, 𝗳𝗲𝗏𝗏's here.
That's kind of how it started, is dating Matt, was on vacation, needed a break, went to the tractor auction and did tickets one time and started ringing the next, and I've been ringing ever since.
She had a great repertoire with a lot of the old farmers out in the crowd, and if they want to talk to her about cattle or tractors, she can rattle it off right back.
It is fun to watch them work together, you know, as a team. The way they communicate, I don't even know what's going on sometimes.
I think just like any other married couple.
Just like us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As long as I do what she says, everything's fine.
That's not true.
There are just some things that are better left unsaid, and a look can say it all. And whether it's a look of endearment or whether it's a look of frustration, I think that says a lot about your relationship, where you can just look at somebody and they know what is happening without having to say the actual words.
In my profession, communication is key. If you can't communicate something to the buyer, or you can't communicate something to the seller, and we can't come to an agreement on something, we can't make a deal. Same thing in a relationship.
Matt supports her 100%, just like she supports Matt.
The greatest challenges for me is balancing the farm and the auction. I'm not willing to give up the tractor auction, so trying to time my farm life with making sure chores are, my chores are covered, goats aren't kidding.
Unfortunately, it doesn't always work out. And due to kidding goats, 𝗳𝗏𝗏 wasn't able to attend this 2021 Spring Classic with Matt.
The consequence of that matter was we had a lot of our Mecum regular customers coming up and going, where's 𝗳𝗏𝗏 at? Is she okay? Ultimately, I did have to make an announcement over the microphone that, okay, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who are asking and those of you who are about to ask, 𝗳𝗏𝗏 is okay. She's at home. We've got goats kidding. All is well.
Folks have every reason to love Matt's wife. 𝗳𝗏𝗏 has a deep love for her Mecum family and is proud of the progress they've made.
So much has changed from Mecum Gone Farmin, from being in a tent with not very much of a block to where we are at today. It's absolutely amazing. It's a huge success for the auctioneers, for the ring people, and it's got to be a huge reward for Dan, especially with all the work that has been put on his dream. Him and Matt talked a lot about some of that stuff, and and where they could go with it, and they've went somewhere with it. So it's very cool to see it change.
They tell a lot of stories, the tractors. One of the best parts of our business is getting to talk to the families and knowing their stories. And that was why selling the Wallace was one of my favorites of the $1 Million Run.
F28 is going to be a 1915 Wallace Cub Model D complete restoration, one of very few known to exist today. Star of the show, F number 28.
Absolutely. Not kind of a portion by the Wallace Cub now. Not kind of an Model tractor.
UDLX is probably the most important for our company maybe because it's so recognizable for marketing and this and that. But the family that was selling the Wallace, they had owned the tractor for, I think it's 50 or 60 years.
225,000, 225, 225,000 a bid, 225, not gonna be a 225, hit 225 here, not gonna be a you want to go 220, you want to do that? 220, 220, 220, 220,000 a bid, not gonna be a 220 bid, and not gonna be about 10, not gonna be about 20 here, 220,000.
This was a big deal for their entire family.
Ladies and gentlemen, we sold the tractor for $220,000, sold $220,000, Mike and George.
They were crying afterwards, like right up on the block. And I think to do something like that for a family, it was just a good moment.
Like Dan said, it's the stories that lead up to a special moment, as it did for the Wallace Cub at the 2021 Spring Classic. The Wallace added to Matt Moravec's special moment of attaining a $1 million half-hour run for Gone Farmin. Up next, we'll dive into several of Matt's career highlight moments. We'll be right back.
And comes another partner that I've danced with before, is the 1938 Minneapolis-Moline UDLX.
The UDLX was the best example we'd ever offered.
Excellently restored, no expense spared in the restoration process, selling today at no reserve, star of the show here.
Folks, it's been talked about all morning long. It's no secret. We've sold these in the past, but you're looking at probably one of the finest examples of what we've had come across the block today. UDLX time period, not going to be a kind of a much down 250, 250,000. And not going to be a kind of a 200,000 bid, not going to be a 2, so we give $100,000 in starter, 100,000 a bid, 100,000, 125, 125, 100's down, 125, hit 125, get a bit of a 25 bid, hit 100's down, 125,000, hit 125, get a bit of a 25 here, we got 125 yet, hit 125, juice hand, 125, hit 125 down.
So the UDLX comes in and sells for another over $200,000.
10, hit 05, no 10, hit 205, 10, hit 205 here, not going to be a bit of a 210, not going to be guys wanted, 210 bid, yes or no, $210,000 last call night have. Give him a big round of applause. He bought a heck of a tractor. Sold $205,000. Sold $205,000, Lucas Lucky.
Setting another record with the sale of the UDLX was a highlight of Matt Moravec's career. And there have been many other high points. For example, being on the block with Hulk Hogan, or being up there with Richard Petty, or auctioneering from atop a Mercedes motorhome, or even any of his runner-up moments at the World Automobile Auctioneers Championships. But he says there's one that stands far above the rest. Nothing measures up to the 2020 Mecum Auto Auction when Matt sold Steve McQueen's iconic 1968 Ford Mustang GT Bullet for $3.74 million.
There's great things in my horizon in the future, but that's going to be one that's hard to beat.
He did have me come down to Orlando last year when they sold the Bullet. I really have to confess I didn't realize what was all going on until I got down there and saw all the hype and saw the car enclosed in this glass booth and an armed guard walking around it. And the people were around there like bees around a hive. It was unbelievable.
I went to auctions my whole life. I've never seen a crowd like that at an auction. I think seating capacity was about 3,000 in there, and there was over 7,000 people in that room. We had to call security on the gate so the fire marshal couldn't get in. Yeah, no, I'm just teasing.
It was kind of like Moses parting the Red Sea when they were bringing that car into that auditorium.
Time starts now. Not going to be how much longer now. Somebody get 500,000 and start it. 500,000, $1 million bid. 1 million, 1 million, $1.5 million, 1 million 5, 1 million 5 bid. Not going to be $1 million 5. Who sent it? $1 million's here. $1 million 5, $1 million 5 bid. $1 million bid. $1 million 5, 1,500,000 bid. $1 million 5, $2 million. A $2 million bid. Hit two. Not going to be anybody. Going to be. Don't worry, we're all right. $2
Next thing you know, he hops up on the podium. He's standing above everybody.
It was more function over form. I couldn't find my ring man.
$3 million down. $3 million. Hit three. Not going to be $3 million bid. Not going to be $3. 2.9. Going to be $3 million down. Going to be $3 million bid. Got 2.9. I'm waiting on it.
The whole place was electric.
You could feel the energy and all the emotion and everything in that room. There was no way I could fall down because he was literally holding me up.
I remember Jimmy Landis, I'm kind of standing out back, and Jimmy grabs me and says, "You got to be up here behind Matt."
I couldn't be there with him for it, which kind of sucked. But his dad being there, from my eyes and my perspective, is the highlight of Matt's career ever, because his dad was there to see it.
I took on a whole new appreciation of what he does. When we'd walk through the crowd of people, everybody was, "There's Matt, there's Matt." He was a celebrity down there. It's very gratifying for us to see what he's done and what he's accomplished.
Coming down and smashing the gavel sold, it was a big hit for my career. I'm honored to work for the company, and I would have never been able to have been given that opportunity anywhere else other than at Mecum Auctions.
It was a great moment for Matt, but it was far from his best moment. The reason I say that, everybody expected it. The Bullet was a big, big promotion, and it's nice for an auctioneer to get a world's record and be part of that, but it was expected. When you just have a normal crowd and it's quiet and stuff, and you light it up the same way with something, that's something when it's unbelievable.
That's what made the 2021 Spring Classic so incredible, especially after coming out of 2020 with the pandemic. Matt's $1 million run was definitely unexpected.
He sold a mix of tractors, from steel wheels to muscle tractors to a UDLX, sold everything, and he sold them above expectations.
9,000. Wait a minute, outside bid of a 7 here. 65. She sounds over 13,000 bid. And now 19 at 5.
It's business. One person's trying to buy it as cheap as they can, and the other person's trying to get the most they can. So there's friction in every deal. So when you see a deal that really works smoothly and the auction team conducts their craft to perfection, it's really enjoyable to see.
The tractors we were selling were quality pieces, so it was a situation where both the sellers were happy and the buyers, which is what makes a great auction.
And it wasn't just the high-dollar tractors that brought excitement to this auction. Matt amped up the crowd by making the ordinary extraordinary. I mean, just look at all the cockshots from the Anton collection.
19,000 bid here. Have sold 18,500. Sold $18,500 𝗕𝗄𝘁. Sold 95. Sold $9,500 Lucas Lucky. Sold her 6,000. Sold $6,000 going to the internet.
And this 1958 𝗕𝗲𝗄𝗖 350.
8,000 under down. Not going to be anybody. Going to be any town bid. Not going to be wanted. 8,000 a bid. Yes or no? 8,000 under bid. And 77 here. Not going to be anybody. Going to be 8,000. Sold her 7,700. Sold $7,700 Travis's way.
Or this 1960 John Deere 630 high crop.
16, 3, 4, down 4, down, kind of a 3, down 4, down 3, down 4. And thank you, sir. Kind of a 4, 3, down, kind of a 4, here, died half. Sold her 63,000. Sold $63,000 Justin.
Regardless of what crossed the block, Matt took on each piece as a new challenge for the Gone Farmin team.
In this business, you just got to be ready for whatever comes at you.
Ready for whatever comes at you. There's a great deal of professionalism on the Mecum block, but with a healthy mix of comedy. I uncovered that sometimes auctioneers test those around them to see if they can keep their composure in the heat of the moment.
I work with an auctioneer from Pennsylvania. He's a bigger guy. Jeff, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. He has a build, a physical build as such that he's really, really easy to depants. And we depantsed him on the auction block. And from my vantage point, it was not a pretty sight. Thankfully, the Mecum auction block comes up high enough that nobody knew what was going on. He got the car sold. That's the main thing. But he did it without any pants on. Now he wears suspenders all the time, and he does not leave home without them.
And on that note, buckle up for more of the Mecum experience going beyond the block. We're coming back with more insight on the half-hour power and what's next for these folks in the Gone Farmin family. Matt Moravec's half-hour power was already going strong. He'd sold the 1960 John Deere 8020, the 1950 Wallace Cub, and the 1938 Minneapolis Moline UDLX. With energy high and $1 million run within reach, another outstanding machine rolled up to the block.
In comes another familiar face, the 1960 730 all-fuel high crop.
Very rare, one of 4 built, excellent restoration. Full 3-point hitch selling today at no reserve.
All field time here. Not going to be a one of 4 built now. Not going to be 75,000. And not going to be 75. Let's have it fun. $10,000 for 110. 10 to bid. 10. Not going to be a 10. Yes, not going to be a 10. Not going to be a 10 here. Not going to be 15 to bid. It's 10. Not going to be 15,000 to bid. 20. Going to be 20,000. And down 5. Going to be 5 down 30. Going to be 30. Mike's way down 5. Mike hit 35. Down 40. 40,000 down 5. 45. 45. 5, 15, down 15, not going to be 50, full time over here, 50,000 to bid, 50,000.
Some people have asked me to slow down. That's not our way. You got to go with the crowd. If they're bidding, we don't want to slow down.
95 here, 100, 100 bid, 100 either way, 100,000 to bid. They got a 3-way down to 100, 105, 105, 100, 105. You're right, he's out again, 105. 100's here in the front row, 105 to you, 105 to you. You want 105, 105,000. Look good next to an 80-20. Give 105, 105,000, 105,000, 105,000. One last time, 105,000. Thank you, though. 105. Sold the tractor. 100,000 sold. $100,000 going to good home George's way.
Given the prices of the Cockshutts and the John Deeres and the internationals that we sold in between, a rough estimate right off the top of my head, we just sold our first $1 million half hour.
That gavel striking the stand marked a monumental success, built from the combined efforts over the years of the whole Gone Farmin family since the modest sale that started it all in 2010.
The realization of the small beginnings of where we started in Walworth, Wisconsin, to that day in Davenport, Iowa, I think the reality kind of set in.
I don't think it's as much as the dollar amount. It's just, it was right at the pinnacle. To do that in a half an hour with tractors was something special. I think he will do it again.
The one thing that pays off in business and work and everything else is experience. He's got experience doing that.
Folks, look at the tractor, the work's done.
So he just turned the experience, had a great run of inventory that pays off to the rest of the Gone Farmin team to get that inventory for him to call the bids.
10 here, not going to be a 10, 95 down 10, hands high, and 95.
Now they just got to grow to they do that every half hour.
That day was the most electric day we've ever had.
Give him a big round of applause. He bought a heck of a tractor, sold $205,000.
He set the tempo for years in that moment. More people are going to bring their tractors. It just builds on itself. And we were at a point where it could have went the other way. That's why it was so special to me, is because it was a pivotal moment.
That wasn't an accident. When you get the best, you're going to get the best results from Mecum Auctions.
We've come to the forefront as a nationally known auction company that does a great job in handling and selling collector tractors. I hope that success continues to thrive, and who knows, maybe we might reach that point where our limits of success are boundless.
I see it growing into like a week-long festival, you know, Gone Farmin. And I think people are going to come from all over the country, and I think it's going to become about more than tractors. and it's going to be a big happening. I'm excited about that.
A great auction experience, it's real simple. You had fun while you were there. It's a business, it's a hobby, it's entertainment, but you gotta have fun.
The hard work of spending part of his life at the fast-paced Mecum auction block and the other part on his farm in Nebraska might not suit everyone, but the auctioneer in the cowboy hat thrives on it.
Now I'm, living the dream, I guess you could kind of call it. So you definitely call it that.
In person or on TV, he's the real deal. There's no sugarcoating, there's no front about him.
Come on out, babies. Yeah, come on out.
He can go from an environment like this with the cows and the horses and the donkeys and the goats into a very professional setting where he can sell $1 million car. And we're just very proud of him.
I'm an auctioneer that has been made up of bits and pieces of people that I've been exposed to or grew up with or worked with for so many years. And I guess I dedicate a lot of my success to the bits and pieces that I've picked up from the so many auctioneers that I've worked with. They know who they are. I hope that in some small way, my success is maybe carrying on their legacy.
If you want the job done, and you want the job done right, and you want the most money, believe in the auction industry, believe in Matt and his other auctioneer friends, and who he trusts on the floor to get the job done for you.
God put me on this earth for a reason, and when I grab the microphone, I know that's what I'm here for. So all I'm doing is I'm just carrying out a plan.
With an attitude like that, it's no surprise this auctioneer has achieved greatness. By living out his calling to call bids, Matt elevates everyone around him, just like he did at the 2021 Spring Classic for Gone Farmin. Selling over $1 million worth of tractors in a half hour makes you wonder what excitement and surprises are in store at the next Gone Farmin sale, doesn't it? I can hardly wait to find out. I'm Amanda Trudell, and thank you for joining me for this view beyond the block of the Mecum experience. As we finish this look at Matt Moravec's $1 million run, here are some closing words from the man himself about final transactions.
If it doesn't get sold, we call it the bid goes on and everything. So I guess my message to the Mecum family would be, out of it one here, down $2, hit of it, $3 of it, $4 of it, $5 of it, $6, hit of it, about hit of it, get 7, 8, 9, here, $10, $11, $12, 13 to bid. Hit 14, hit of it, about 15, hit of it, 16, 17 of it, 18 of it, 19 of it, hit of it, get 20, hit of it, $1, hit of it, 21, hit of it, $1, hit of it, here's to 21 years, and the legacy goes on. And I can't thank the Mecum family more for keeping me on board as long as they have, and as long as there's a Mecum Auctions and as long as there's a breath in my body, I will continue to serve for this company.
Climb aboard, line 'em up, get 'em up on the block, making deals, moving steel. It's something you gotta try.
Be sure to check out Mecum.com for all our events and details.
It's time for Mecum's Gone Farmin.